Welcome into College Football Now. My name is Harrison Graham. With me is Tyler Jones. We are just 30 minutes or so away from the College Football Playoff Committee revealing their latest top 25 rankings. Once those get released, we will react with all of you. We've got our mock rankings to get to as well. More chalk again, Tyler. The top five remain unbeaten, but we'll see if there's a shift somewhere in the top five. Maybe Washington leapfrogs Florida State final.
I think that's the biggest surprise, Harry, that usually we're talking about upsets of somebody falling off, but these guys have held serve pretty well up to this point. Now you got rivalry week this week, championship week to follow. We might have to just wait for the cards to fall as they may.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's still a lot of game left. You got rivalry week this week. Then you got conference championship games, and obviously Michigan-Ohio State this week. That's going to knock somebody out of the hunt. But, look, it's been fascinating to watch up to this point. And, listen, it's the last year of the four-team playoff. We should get some chaos, right? It seems only fitting that something crazy happens over these final couple weeks.
Selfishly, I hope somebody gets left out.
Yeah.
I want controversy.
Yeah, just to kind of perfectly say, yeah, this system was flawed from the beginning.
Well, and nobody likes to admit it, but the truth of the matter is college football is at its best when there is controversy,
yes.
When it's not a perfect system, when we have some axe to grind of some sorts, and based on the way things are going, I think we're probably going to have that. Shout out your favorite college football team. We'll shout you out in the comments section as we get the show started. Junior is a Bama fan. Got Daniel saying, yo. Brandon says, go Huskies. I assume referring to Washington. Tyler says, can we please move Washington up? I think, Harry and I were talking about this before the show, I think Huskies are going to go up to 4 today.
By the way, how do you know Brandon is not a UConn fan? How do you know he's not part of the 2-9 fighting Jim Morris?
UConn football fans don't exist. That's how I know.
That is definitely true. Ethan Mizzou, good year for the Tigers. If they win this week, they are New Year's Six bound.
Oh, I still don't like Eli Drinkwitz. Mustang says UCF. Drip says go Dogs. Tyler says Cal Golden Bears. Let's see. John says Mizzou.
You can't go Tigers with the LSU spelling if you're a Mizzou fan.
Absolutely not. What a fraud. Typical Mizzou fan right there.
Whoa. Hey now. Relax. Don't call out John too much. I mean, I called him out on like a 7 out of 10, and then you took him to the slaughterhouse. Like, my goodness.
Hey, I came out firing.
Hey, listen, I understand it was a tough loss for Kansas. They should have won this weekend. I was rooting for your boys, I'll be honest.
Yeah, third string quarterback.
He played pretty well. It was
There's
tough.
only so much you can do.
It was tough. Christopher going Bama.
Says Bama. Doug says go Huskies. Brittany says Ohio. And Duke says, go big dog. I don't know what dog. Assuming Georgia is the big dog.
Georgia, Huskies, something like that.
All
Michigan from John.
Week 12 results. Harry, everybody held serve. The big storyline, of course, Florida State losing Jordan Travis. And they were down when they got hurt. They ended up getting a big blowout win to North Alabama after that.
Yeah, I mean, look, how does the committee evaluate that? I know there's already hot takes out there. They could be left out as an unbeaten. I don't see it that way. I think undefeated Florida State has to be in the playoff. But, could that be that in part with Washington beating a top 15 team, flip-flop those two? I think that's definitely the case. And quite frankly, that would be the case regardless of Jordan Travis's status. Like, Washington at this point clearly has a stronger resume. I think they did before last week, and now with the top 15 win on the road while Florida State played North Alabama, I mean, to me it's clear the Huskies have to jump into the top 4.
Well, and besides just the resume that we give Washington the edge for, I think the eye test, they look like a better team than Florida State.
Especially recently.
Yeah.
Especially recently.
Who should be number 1? Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan. Weigh in the chat. Tell us what you think. Harry, I'd be surprised if Georgia's not number 1 again.
Yeah, they'll hold there. They beat a top 20 Tennessee team, which I don't know why Tennessee was number 18 last week, but we'll see if they're still ranked. But either way, they're going to stay number 1. Ohio State playing Minnesota, Michigan playing Maryland, kind of hanging on there. Nothing they did is going to have them leapfrog. It's going to be Georgia. Mustang says Michigan. Drip says Georgia. Tyler says Georgia. Go Blue should be number 1. Drip says Georgia. We got Peter saying either Georgia or Ohio State. They're not going to flip it back after Georgia just demolished a ranked opponent. That's just not going to happen.
That would leave us even more confused.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's why I shouldn't say never, because they have done weird things in the past. But I would actually be legitimately shocked if Georgia was not number 1 tonight. PrizePicks, appreciate them for sponsoring tonight's show. Daily fantasy made easy. That is what PrizePicks is all about. And it's a great time of year for daily fantasy because you've got college football ongoing, the NFL, the NBA, college basketball, the NHL. You got 5 prominent sports in action on a daily basis. At least some of those sports are. Then obviously football on the weekends. Pick 2 to 6 players on any given entry and win up to 25 times your money with PrizePicks. Get started today. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS to get started right now. Plus, they're offering you an opportunity. All you got to do is take Christian McCaffrey more than half a rushing or receiving yard. If he steps on the field, he's going to get that. So pair that with something else. That's an easy 10 to win $30 opportunity. We like Sam Howell more than on the passing yards. He's been very up and down this year. He was bad last week, which means he's going to bounce back, in my opinion. I think he has a good passing yardage game against Dallas. Plus, they're going to be playing from behind most likely, so they're going to have to sling it. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Don't trust my word for it. Rapper Meek Mill, comedian Andrew Schultz, several other celebrities playing PrizePicks on a daily basis. Get started with them today. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS for a deposit match up to $100. Now, we do need to talk about this angle, Tyler. Jordan Travis. And before we get to the playoff implications, this just sucks, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're talking about a 6-year guy who went through some turbulence early on, coaching change. You finally put it all together this year. Like, we saw the growth last year. Then this year, he's a, kind of a Heisman contender, national championship caliber team, and he has a brutal leg injury. And obviously, I still believe if they go undefeated, they should be in. But there's no doubt that this impacts their chances of actually winning a national title greatly. I think they were already, out of the 5 teams who control their destiny, probably the 4th or 5th best team. But now, without their leader, it's going to be tough for them to get into the playoff and actually do some damage, I think.
Before you write off Florida State, though, let's go back in the hot tub time machine to 2014. Ohio State with a 3rd-string quarterback in Cardale Jones went on to win the national championship. So there is precedent. This has happened before. I don't think Jordan Travis being out is a reason to leave them out of the playoffs.
Absolutely
if they take care of business these next 2 weeks, they have to be in.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty simple to me. I know the ACC is a little down, but Power 5 champ, undefeated champ, has to be in unless all 5 leagues had an undefeated champ, which that won't be the case because Ohio State and Michigan play each other. That'll knock out a team. And then the Big 12 doesn't have an unbeaten team. So to me, if Florida State and Washington obviously run the table, they should both be in. Now, the question is, right now at this exact moment, who should be number 4? I think it pretty clearly should be Washington. Now, that shouldn't scare off Florida State fans because Michigan and Ohio State play each other, so the loser of that kind of eliminates themselves. But to me, the Huskies have earned a spot in the top 4. There's more of an argument to be that they should be number 3 than they should be number 5.
I think so. I think that's a very good point. You look at that Washington team, the way that they've found ways to win. I know some people don't like that, they played Arizona State close or some of these other teams, games were closer than they should have been. But good teams find ways to win on their off days. And when they've had the big games this year, the USCs, the Oregons of the world,
delivered.
Oregon State this past week, they've delivered good performances. Their strength of record is first in all of college football. I don't know how Washington shouldn't be in the top 4 after tonight.
And quite frankly, I think out of all the unbeatens, they've had the toughest road. I mean, they've had tough games week in and week out, playing in the Pac-12, the deepest conference in college football this year. Lonnie says Florida State. Tyler is going Washington. Brittany goes Washington. Mustang says Florida State. Go vote on the live poll as well. 66% of you agree with us. 67% now going with Washington, as is Junior and Brittany. We do have a super chat from Drips. Shout out to Drips. Georgia three-peats, no question. I wouldn't say no question, Tyler, but I would say for about a month now, since that Florida game, they have looked like the best team in the country again.
Yeah, they have. They have. And I think the big storyline for Georgia, what's different now compared to how they started the year, is the development of Carson Beck.
It's been terrific.
Beck's been awesome, and he was not good to start off the season.
Yeah.
Now he's starting to come into his own. That defense is really good here. You don't want to be facing Georgia right now.
And that's kind of true for both SEC contenders as we look at the college football playoff map. Jalen Milroe looks like a much different player now for Alabama than he did earlier in the season. Now I think Georgia's a more complete team than Bama is, but I do think Milroe's development has kept them in the hunt, and obviously they're going to get their chance against Georgia here in a couple of weeks. They got to take care of business against Auburn first, but it's the same as it was last week to me, Tyler. The 5 unbeatens, yes, there's going to be Jordan Travis discussion, but to me, they all control their own destiny. There's 4 spots, 5 teams who control it, and the reason for that is the loser of Ohio State, Michigan would fall into the long shot category with a loss this week.
Yeah, no question about it. And you look at those other teams, Oregon, the committee has shown they really like that Oregon team. Alabama's still playing Georgia ahead. You got to think that's got to help their potential strength of record. And then Texas, although the finish of the year doesn't look terribly difficult with Texas Tech this week and then a Big 12 championship game to follow after that, they have the win against Alabama. How much does that factor into the equation of having that head-to-head advantage? Shout out to Louisville, too, by the way. I know that the committee last week had them behind Mizzou, but they went into Miami, won that game on the road.
They should jump Mizzou,
Tough
in my
game.
opinion.
I was very impressed with what Jeff Brom's crew did in that win.
Yeah, that was a battle. It was back and forth, and hopefully they're able to get there. And by the way, as we wait for the committee to release their top 25, we're going to get into our mock rankings in a moment. Can we get to 345,000 subs tonight? We're 43 away, and we got just 100 and so people watching. We'll remind you guys as we go, as the audience grows.
If you don't sub, you love the BCS.
Yeah. If you want daily college football coverage, news, rumors, weekly rankings, we put out coaching search hot boards for Texas A&M. We did Syracuse, Mississippi State. Have we done any others? There might have been a couple more that we've done. We'll do more as coaches get fired in the coming weeks, so be on the lookout for that. What's that?
I said we did Mel Tucker a little while ago. We all
Yes.
know what went down there.
We honestly should do an updated Michigan State one. I'll be curious to see what they do, but we'll do that as well. So,
and there'll be plenty more openings in the next coming weeks.
That and recruiting is going to heat up next month. So lots of college football coverage. We're excited to do it. Okay, here are our mock rankings. You got to rank Liberty, Tyler. They're 11-0. You got to put them in there, right?
No question.
It's time. You got to put them in there. I got them at 25. I didn't know what to do with Tennessee and Utah. They're 7-4, but the committee seems to like them. Utah's had a tough schedule in the Pac-12. I kept them in there. I don't think Tennessee should be ranked, but the committee has liked them throughout, so I still have them in there. NC State's quietly 8-3 now, so I think they jump into the polls this week.
I think Utah is one of those great what-ifs. How would this season have gone had Cam Rising played this year? He comes back next year.
Yep.
They head to the Big 12.
I think they're Big 12 favorites.
I think that's exactly what I was about to say, that they're going to be the favorites next year to run the table in the Big 12.
Yeah, Oklahoma State, after a win, they move up a couple spots. Tulane, I got them at number 20. They got the inside track to be the Group of 5 New Year's Six team for a second consecutive season. Kansas State at 19 with a tough win over Kansas. Notre Dame at 18. They keep plugging along, hoping still for a outside chance at a New Year's Six game. Arizona, Tyler, I say it every week. I've watched them quite a bit this year. Jed Fish, with what he's done with that program, man, it's impressive. I mean, they were in the gutter after Kevin Sumlin left, and he's turned that thing around quickly.
Yeah, no question about it. And you look at what he's done. He's such a terrific offensive mind. Was in the LA Rams organization for several years, and the way that they've really just turned things around has been incredible. And Harry, your favorite school, Iowa, coming into 16.
Listen, they don't play football, but they are 9-2, so it is what it is. It's
and they're going to the Big Ten championship.
God, that's disgusting. But they are 9-2, so there you have it. Who's the most underrated college football team right now? I think it is Arizona. I feel like I'm the only
Not
one.
Iowa?
They're the most boring team right now. Arizona, Tyler, I bring them up every week. I'm not sure a single national analyst has talked about them all year. So, what do you guys think? Most underrated team.
I hate to admit this, but I think Kansas State has a case to be the most underrated
they're lurking.
team in the country.
They've been playing a lot better lately. I mean, if they won that game in Austin like they probably should have, I mean, they're pretty much a lock to be in the Big 12 title game. So,
yeah. Now instead, they're waiting to play out all these tiebreaker scenarios. And
did you see there's up to 126 scenarios?
And on top of that, too, apparently the Big 12, after Friday's games get done, is supposed to release new guidelines of sorts of how the tiebreakers will go.
Is this just a bit at this point? Like
anything to find a way to get Oklahoma out of the title game. Am I right?
Well,
they don't actually deserve it that much.
Don't lose. Who did they lose to before Bedlam?
They lost to Kansas.
Yeah, well, there you have it. Liberty, that's a good one. They're underrated. They're 11-0. Let's go. Missouri from James, that's a good one. We got if Ohio State beats Michigan, they deserve number one. That'll be interesting if the winner of Ohio State-Michigan jumps to number one. App State has some of the most potential. I don't know about potential, but they definitely maximize what they have.
Yeah.
How about them just disappointing 30,000 JMU fans that showed up to College Game Day? That was quite a scene.
The biggest game in their history, with game day there and everything, and just laid an egg with an overtime loss.
Take this to the bank. If you have a massive game of that stature, App State, out of every program in America, is the team you want to play at least. Bama, I don't care. You do not want to play App State if it is a scene like that. They will rip your hearts out every single time. I have a lot of respect for that program. 15 through 11, LSU still sitting there. They're trying to get to the New Year's Six. How about Jaden Daniels, man? He's unbelievable. The favorite to win the Heisman now.
Yeah, he's been awesome the last few weeks. That team is not going to go to the playoff. They're not going to win the SEC. But what Brian Kelly has basically done, the way that offense has operated the last few weeks, is they've said, we're going to do what we can to get Jaden Daniels the Heisman and run off that for recruiting for the next year plus.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Oregon State, they'll drop a couple spots after a tough loss to Washington. Oklahoma at 13, Ole Miss 12, Penn State 11. I kept that order the same of what the committee did last week with those 3 two-loss teams. Yeah. I don't think any of those teams played any notable opponents to shift that, so I kind of kept that in that same order. Then you get into the top 10. I know they had Mizzou ranked higher last week. I hope they recognize that Louisville is still a one-loss Power 5 team. They beat a Miami team that has shown capabilities at times this year on the road. I'm going to leapfrog that. Mizzou almost lost to Florida. Quite frankly, should have if Billy Napier doesn't piss down his leg in the final minute.
The thicker kicker with the game winner.
Dude, he's a legend. What's his name? Harrison Mevin, something like that. He's pretty good. Louisville, I'm going to give them the nod there at number 9. Still a long way to go to make the CFP, but what a story they've been. You know, I'm conflicted on what to do 6 through 8. I don't think Bama can move up after playing Chattanooga, so I'm leaving them there. Texas ahead of them. I thought about Texas over Oregon because a road win over Iowa State is more impressive than Oregon's road win at Arizona State, and Oregon's best win is Utah, who lost again. So I'm kind of like, I don't know what to do, but the committee seems to really like Oregon, so I kept it there for now.
Yeah, what's interesting, too, breaking kind of all these down, the Texas situation, that is a team that hasn't looked good the last few weeks.
I thought they played better against Iowa State. It wasn't perfect, but I thought they played a little better than they had in the few games earlier.
The committee loves the eye test, but the resume is not there.
Yeah.
I mean, their best win, Utah, who is about to not be a top 25 win.
Now, they have Oregon State this week, then the rematch with Washington probably. So if you finish with those 2 wins, that's a pretty strong finish.
And then Bama this week, you get a win against Auburn. That's not going to help you a ton either.
No. I mean, they got a bit of a conundrum with these 3 one-loss teams. Like, it's not a clear-cut scenario. because there's a scenario where all three of these teams are one-loss conference champions. What do
Right.
you do? Like, how do you order it? Like,
The committee is hoping that the teams that are undefeated stay undefeated.
they want Georgia to beat Bama,
They want Georgia to beat Bama,
Washington to beat Oregon.
and that all work itself out to
Yeah.
determine the top four.
We don't want that.
No.
We want chaos because that is fun. Who do you guys think is the best one-loss team? Who do you just take the resume, all of it? You think out of these three teams, they play a round robin, who comes out the best? Who do you think the best one-loss team
I think
is?
Oregon's the best one-loss team. I think Bo Nixon's playing good. That defense is incredible. And I expect, we talked about chaos, I think Oregon is going to beat Oregon State this upcoming week, and I think they're going to win the rematch against Washington in the Pac-12 title game.
It would be devastating for the Pac-12 if that happened, and Oregon and Washington both got left out, because that could happen.
It could happen. One
could
case I
happen.
would make for Oregon, though, I'll say this, as far as their resume, if you beat Washington as a one-loss
You've beaten
team,
everybody you played.
I think that erases your loss. I view you as an undefeated if you beat Oregon, if you beat Washington in the Pac-12 title game.
Declan says Bama, quack, quack from Montana. We got Oregon from Brittany, Texas from Colin Smith, Oregon from Alex and Peter. Texas beat Bama from Robbie. They did, and that's obviously has to carry weight, and it seemingly has with the committee up to this point, as they have stayed ahead of Alabama. Archeotype says Oregon. Clayton says Texas. Pretty split in the chat among these three one-loss teams. So obviously that does leave Oregon at number 6. I wouldn't be shocked if them in Texas were flipped, but I think they've liked the Ducks up to this point, so I think they stay there. I've said it for 3 weeks now. I think it finally happens, Tyler. I think Washington leapfrogs Florida State. I think the Seminoles dropped. They played an FCS opponent. Washington beat number 11 Oregon State on the road. You got to put them in the top 4 at this point. I mean, they've played the toughest schedule out of the unbeatens.
They play the toughest schedule. They have one of the best players in America. Their defense, and then the win streak too. They've been winning games for a long time. I don't know how you can't put Washington in that top 4. Michigan at number 3.
Held on against Maryland.
Held on.
Wasn't
did enough.
pretty.
And second straight win without Harbaugh. Can they do it again this week against Ohio State?
J.J. McCarthy has kind of just looked average the last couple weeks. He's going to have to play better to beat
His
the Buckeyes.
draft stock's falling right now.
Yeah. He didn't throw a single pass in the second half against Penn State, and he really struggled against Maryland. I mean, he was off target all day, but they found a way. Ohio State hammered Minnesota. I think they stay at 2. And then Georgia, who leapfrogged Ohio State last week, they hammered Tennessee, a ranked opponent on the road. They should stay at number 1. So I feel good about the top 3, Tyler. I don't think there's any changes there. I think Washington will finally leapfrog Florida State, and then FSU and Oregon will round out your top 6. I think
so.
that's how it'll play out.
Who should be number 1? Georgia, Ohio State, or Michigan? Type UGA for Georgia. Type OSU for Ohio State. Type MICH for Michigan. We'll shout you out in the comments section of who you believe should be number 1.
By the way, Montana says, will the committee keep out a 12-1 Louisville? Probably. I mean, they're going to need a lot of help, Tyler, to let's just map that out after we get some shout-outs real quick. We'll go to the map, and then I want to play a blind resume. We'll do map first, because I do want to kind of try to map out the Louisville scenario. But Drip says Georgia. Montana says Georgia. Go Huskies from Rick. Ohio State from Ken. We got Jake saying Georgia. Brittany saying Ohio State. Ryan says Washington, who is not included in this, but I actually do think they have the best resume.
Yeah.
Georgia until someone beats them. It's fair, man. At some point, winning, I don't like what they did last year should count for this year, but when you've won 30 in a row almost, that's got to mean something as well. Someone's got to knock you down.
I don't think you can ignore it.
You can't ignore it. I don't think it should be some clear indicator of where you rank them, but it's something that's rattling in the back of your mind. I'll just say that. Okay, we're going to play blind resume here in a moment, but
Ooh.
I want to get to that question of Louisville. 12-1 Louisville, what's their path? I think this is their path, Tyler. I think, obviously, they do win out and they beat Florida State. I think you want Georgia to beat Bama. You got to take them out. You need Texas to lose either this week to Texas Tech or in the Big 12 championship, so the Big 12's out. So that's 2 teams in front of them. You've got to get, 2 more out in that scenario?
Right.
you need to be convincing enough probably to leapfrog the loser of Michigan-Ohio State, right? If Michigan loses close to Ohio State and Louisville kind of skates by Florida State without Jordan Travis, I think Michigan would get the nod over Florida State. So you almost want the loser of Michigan-Ohio State to get blown out, I think.
Let me make another point here that I think is very important on this Louisville thing. We mentioned how they have the non-conference win against Notre Dame, and that's a big deal.
They also have Kentucky this week.
Kentucky.
That's a bowl team.
And Florida State, I think they're about to see. If they win out, their strength of record is about to skyrocket.
Yeah. You need Texas to lose. You need Bama to lose to Georgia.
Like the analytics are about to, if they win out, considerably change
help.
in their favor.
And you need, I think, the loser of Ohio State, Michigan to lose somewhat convincingly.
Yes.
I would say that's what you're rooting for if you are Louisville. And I don't think it matters. Okay, I'll throw one more scenario in there.
Okay.
Oregon loses to Oregon State.
Okay.
But then beats Washington.
Yeah.
That's the other thing you want if you're Louisville. Super chat from Noel for life as we're just a few minutes away from hearing from the College Football Playoff Committee. We should be 5. Washington beat 3 ranked teams. That's an honest fan right there. I appreciate that.
Yes.
Shout out to you. Dylan Heck, if you do super chat, you will get on the show. Picture this, Iowa winning the Big Ten. I guess that's another scenario. If Iowa wins the Big Ten, that helps Louisville. FSU loses to Louisville. Georgia wins out. Oregon wins out. Who gets in? Well, I think the Big Ten's eliminated in that scenario. Right. And you didn't mention Texas here, so I think Texas one loss gets in. Georgia's in. I think Oregon one loss is in. Is that so? Georgia, Oregon, Texas. Fourth team is TBD. Loser of or maybe the Big Ten team that lost to Iowa still gets in. Maybe
Alabama.
Louisville. No, Bama's not in.
Loss.
Yeah, Bama's
that'd
not
be their
in.
second.
Maybe that's the path for Louisville.
Maybe so.
Or maybe Washington still gets in.
Yeah.
If they lose close to Oregon, because they could say, hey, we did beat Oregon.
Right.
So if they lose close, that could happen.
Blind resume time.
Yeah, let's play blind resume. Team A, B, and C. So these
clearly
categories.
One that stands out from the rest here.
And it's interesting. You guys are going to find this fascinating. Strength of schedule for Team A is number 9. Strength of record, number 6. Top 25 wins, 2. And these top 25 wins, by the way, are based on our college football projected rankings. I don't know what the new top 25 looks like yet. Team B, 63rd strength of schedule, 9th strength of record, no top 25 wins. Actually, correction, 1. That's my fault. 1. We'll fix that. 28th strength of schedule for Team C, 7th strength of record for Team C, 2 top 25 wins. Either way, even with the 1 for Team B, that one clearly looks the worst, correct?
No question.
So, which do you guys think has the best resume out of those 3 teams?
It's clearly Team A.
Yeah.
I don't think it's close, quite frankly. But these deals, remember, it's not just resume, eye test, it's the mixing of the two. This is college basketball is all resume.
Yeah.
But this college football, the best 4 teams definition is supposed to be a mixture of the two.
And that's where like game control comes in
Right.
as another metric, et cetera. Flame says A, DVD says A. Someone says Team A looks like a SEC team. Team A, but that is
yet.
Montana says Team A is Bama. Ryan says B probably has a better record since their strength of schedule is worse. CFP about the start. That's correct. We're going to react with all of you. Well, let's reveal it. Team A is Texas. Texas is Team A. Team B is Oregon, who the committee has loved. And Team C is Alabama. There you have it.
And
they all have the same record, obviously.
that strength of schedule, I think, is the big difference there.
Now, Oregon's is about to shoot up because that's based so far.
Right.
That does not account for Oregon State or a potential game with Washington. So keep that in mind as well. Here we go. We're going to reset here. College football now. We are just moments away from the latest batch of the College Football Playoff Committee's top 25 rankings. We'll catch you guys up on it and react live here on Chat Sports. Harrison Graham and Tyler Jones with you. It is College Football Now by Chat Sports, and we are just a few minutes away from the College Football Playoff Committee to unveil their latest top 25 rankings. We've got this week, Tyler, next week, which will lead into conference championship game, and then the following Sunday, there you have it. I mean, it's crunch time here in college football.
Down to the wire, and who is the number one team in the country? Georgia, Ohio State, or Michigan? Harry, we're not expecting any big changes there. What the big story is going to be what happens at that 4 spot. Does Washington finally jump Florida State?
Yeah, I think that's the thing to monitor tonight. That's our live poll, so go vote on that in the chat. We'll get some shout-outs here. Liger says Georgia, David and DVD going Ohio State. AJ is going Ohio State. Shane going Ohio State. The reality is Georgia was number 1 last week, beat a ranked team on the road. Ohio State and Michigan were 2 and 3, beat unranked teams. Oh, Georgia's going to be number 1. You can take that to the bank. Like, they are going to be number 1 tonight. This is the bigger question. Does Washington finally jump Florida State? Couple of things to consider here. Florida State played North Alabama, and they lost their Heisman hopeful Jordan Travis in the process. Really reminds me of the Hendon Hooker situation last year. Just brutal. And then Washington beat a top 15 team in Oregon State on the road. Their resume is just that much stronger at this point. It's got to be the Huskies, in my opinion.
Has to be. Not only when you factor in strength of schedule and all that, but also just the eye test. I think Washington has played really good, and they've found a way to win some close games against some good teams here. Washington, Michael Penix and company's been impressive. Second longest win streak in the nation as well. Let's give some shout-outs here. Who should be number 4, Florida State or Washington? DV Gaming says Washington. Mustang 02 says Florida State. DeClain says Florida State. Brandon says Washington. David says Washington. Peter says Washington. Everett says Washington, number 4. Clayton says Washington. Deanne says maybe not Florida State.
I think it'll be Washington. I do want to be clear for FSU fans. I am not in the camp of people saying an undefeated Florida State could still get left out with Jordan Travis injured. If you win your final 2 games, you belong in the college football playoff. I don't care what any national pundit says. An undefeated Power 5 team absolutely needs to be in the playoff, and I would expect that to happen if it did. Drips, couple of super chats to get to here. Last year, Michigan and Ohio State made the playoffs. Do you think that happens again? I don't think this year. In fact, Tyler, that has been the one beauty of the 4-team playoff. It plays out differently every year. 5 unbeatens with 2 weeks to go. There's just not a path, at least an easy one, where the loser of that game gets in.
Especially if Michigan is the loser, considering how bad their non-conference is.
Yeah.
Ohio State, slim chance still with the Michigan non-conference win, better than it
Notre
would be
Dame
Michigan,
win, yeah.
or the Notre Dame win, rather.
Yeah.
But, yeah, very slim chance that works out that way.
Agreed.
Another super chat from Dylan. Dylan writes in, Ohio State beats
Oregon State
beats Oregon this week. Arizona beats Washington in the Pac.
Oh, I forgot. That's a scenario where Arizona gets
Texas
in.
loses.
Team Chaos. I'm all in for Team Chaos. Listen, it's I don't want Selection Sunday, Tyler, to walk into the studio and know who the 4 teams are. I want there to be some debate at some point in time, so hopefully that happens. We're just a few moments away from the College Football Playoff Committee to tell us who their top 25 rankings are. Before that starts to get revealed, subscribe to the channel. We are literally 40 subs away from 345,000 here on this channel. We got to get there right now. Come on. Hit that sub button if you want more college football coverage. We'll be here again next Tuesday night, and then Tyler and I will also be here 5 days later for Selection Sunday following championship weekend in college football. So hit that sub button. Yes! Liberty is ranked. Clemson, welcome back to the top 25. Liberty is number 25. Clemson's number 24. Tulane is number 23. NC State joins the rankings. And the committee's favorite 4-loss team, the Tennessee Volunteers, are number 21. Even Matthew Peterson, our resident Tennessee fan, doesn't understand.
Yeah, and how about Tulane, 23? The committee is still not showing them much appreciation right now.
Kind of a bizarre one there. Liberty getting in there finally as an 11-0 team. NC State at 8-3. They've been quietly stacking some wins recently. They get in there. I will say this, Clemson being ranked helps the cause for Florida State to have to hold off any BS argument. Oh, Jordan Travis is hurt. They beat Clemson, so that's a ranked win for them now, so that's big. Oklahoma State up to number 20. Kansas State is 19. Notre Dame is 18. Iowa, yes, they drop even though they won. They're number 17. Oregon State, see, this is where the inconsistency. They drop 5 spots for losing by 2 points to Washington. Tennessee drops 3 spots by getting blown out again. Like, I just don't understand the inconsistency sometimes. Oregon State is 16th now.
It doesn't make any sense at all. But credit to the Beavs, though. One of the best stories this year, not knowing their future, what it holds, and here they are, still a top 16 team in America.
And a report coming out a few days ago that Oregon State and Washington State likely forming an alliance with the Mountain West, which we'll see what that bodes for that conference. I can't imagine that's going to hold Power 5 status.
No, can't imagine that at all. But the other teams there that we have listed, Notre Dame coming in at number 18, more indications than people realize with Louisville factoring in. More teams.
Top 15 here, 15 through 11. Arizona keeps plugging along. They're number 15. LSU is up to number 14. Oklahoma, they're number 13. Ole Miss 12, Penn State 11. So they kept that consistent, Tyler. That is how they ordered those 2 lost teams last week, Penn State, Ole Miss, and Oklahoma. And that is how they are keeping it this week. The Nittany Lions at number 11, the Ole Miss Rebels at number 12, then the Oklahoma Sooners at 13. Still an outside shot for LSU and Arizona to make their case for the New Year's Six, perhaps.
Yeah, not impossible. And LSU with a Heisman contending quarterback.
Jaden Daniels.
With Jaden Daniels, he's looked really good as of late here. That would be certainly intriguing here. Oklahoma's still hoping to get in the Big 12 title game. They would need some help for that to happen.
Yeah, Oklahoma, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, 3 teams in the Big 12 we've shown already, all in the mix to get to Arlington to take on likely the Texas Longhorns unless they lose to Texas Tech and other chaos happens. But we'll get to the Longhorns and 9 other teams in just a moment as we await the top 10. While we do wait, hit that subscribe button here on College Football Now. We're trying to get to 345,000 subscribers. Sub for more college football content. We also cover the NFL and the NBA as well. Don't miss out. We have a couple more weeks of this. We're 27 subs away now from 345,000. 19 away. Come on, let's get there.
Let's go.
Sub for more college football coverage here on Chat Sports. Tyler, myself, the whole staff here at Chat Sports would greatly appreciate it.
The traveling teacher just subbed. Thank you for that.
Type sub if you're a subscriber, by the way, and we'll get you guys a shout-out. So let's make that happen. So 15 through 11 there, Arizona, LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Penn State, excuse me. So we await for the committee to get into the top 10. I know, my brain is still spitting out Tennessee for some reason. Shout out to David for saying sub, Ross saying sub, Jason, John, DV Gaming, Vivid, Declan, Ross and Ashley. We've got Colin Smith. Appreciate everybody who has subscribed to the channel. We are 10 subs away from 345,000. Speaking of 10, the Louisville Cardinals not going to jump Missouri. So
what did they have to do?
Yeah, I don't get it. Mizzou's been a really good team this year. I don't want to take anything from them, but I just think what Louisville's done has been impressive. They're 10-1. It's going to be a long shot for them to make the CFP, but they get Kentucky this week. That would be a bowl-eligible team they would beat, and then potentially Florida State in a couple of weeks. Or actually, that game's already set. It is going to be Florida State. Mizzou staying at number 9, so no changes at 9 and 10, Tyler.
Yeah, a little disappointed. I don't know what Louisville was supposed to do. They went on the road and took care of business, and yet they still find themselves.
And Mizzou almost lost to Florida, who's a worse team than Miami. So I'm a little confused by that one. So you've got that. So 6 through 8 has been Oregon, Texas, Bama at 8, and that's where they're going to hold this week. Alabama playing FCS Chattanooga, so they hold at number 8. Jalen Milrose playing better and better, Tyler. They got to take care of business against Auburn this week, but all eyes on Atlanta if he can pull off the upset against Georgia in a couple of weeks.
I wouldn't want to play Alabama right now. They're
No.
a whole lot different team than they were early in the season.
Yeah.
But, when you're still factoring resumes and all that,
Yeah.
Texas is going to be ahead of them here, and rightfully so. You went on the road and got that win done, and you find themselves at number 7. That means that Oregon is still going to be ahead of them too.
Yeah, so no changes 6 through 10. I mean, technically, we haven't heard from the committee yet, but pretty safe to say the Oregon Ducks are going to be number 6. And then we'll get to the 5 unbeaten. So there you have it. Texas, Bama 7 and 8, Mizzou 9, Louisville number 10. So we await what the College Football Playoff Committee is going to do with the top 6. We can talk about our sponsor real quick here on the show. That is PrizePicks. If you want to spice up your game day experience, play daily fantasy with PrizePicks, the best daily fantasy sports out there. What I like about PrizePicks is it's very easy. It's very simple. It's not complicated. You pick anywhere from 2 to 6 players, regardless of sport. You can cross over sports and how much, if they're going to go for more or less than their stat projections. Quick little NFL one we've got for you this week. Christian McCaffrey, they're giving you a deal. Take the more on the yards. He's going to have at least 1 yard this week, rushing and receiving. And then Sam Howell, he's been up and down this year. I think he bounces back this week. Give me the more on his passing as well. $10 to win 30 with this one, but you can win up to 25 times your money on any given entry. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. The playoff committee went ahead, Tyler, and announced the number 6 team in the country. It is the Oregon Ducks. So there you have it there. We are waiting to hear the top 5.
Yeah, and so far, the committee's holding serve to what they've typically done the last few weeks. The big thing we're waiting on, see a 4 and 5 flip. But the silver lining, if you are, let's say, a Florida State fan and they slip to 5, you still control your own destiny. If you win out, you're still going to make it in that top 4 because the way that it all works anyway with Michigan and Ohio State playing each other, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, I agree. I know there's this discussion. Well, without Jordan Travis, could you leave out an unbeaten Florida State? I completely disagree with that notion. You got to put in an unbeaten Power 5 champion. We're kind of cycling through on your screen the rankings so far this week. The main thing I don't like so far is why is Oregon State dropping 5 spots for playing Washington, a current top 5 team in the country, to the wire? Tennessee is somehow still ranked, only drops 3 spots despite getting blown out for the second week in a row. I just don't get these little inconsistencies. And some could say, well, it doesn't matter. Those teams aren't making the top 4. It does matter, though, because it's a process. And guess what? This thing's going to be a 12-teamer next year. So, it's going to matter for 2 and 3 loss teams how they operate within teams who are on the bubble of that level. So I do think it is important moving forward in the college football playoff.
Yeah, absolutely, no question about it. Oregon with that number 6 spot there, and going to be very interesting these next couple of weeks. Oregon State and Washington in the Pac-12 title game, they're about to be way more tested than they've been all season. Their best win's probably Utah.
If you're an Oregon fan, you got to be pretty happy with where you're at because the committee still has you ahead of Texas and Bama, who have better resumes than you, yet now you're going to stack that resume with Oregon State and Washington. If they win those final 2 games, good chance they're in. Oh, curveball from the committee. They're going to release number 1 first. No surprise, the Georgia Bulldogs hold on there. So I think they're trying to build suspense, Tyler, for that number 4 spot. Yeah, let's drive those ratings, folks. Georgia is number 1. Oregon is number 6. We got 2 through 5 to go. The remaining teams are Ohio State, Michigan, Washington, and Florida State. We'll see where they stack up here. What if they do something wild and put Washington number 3 tonight? You in? I wouldn't
not
hate
opposed.
it. I wouldn't hate it.
Who's Michigan's best win at this point? Penn State?
Yeah. Ohio State is number 2. They'll stay there. They will stay there. The Buckeyes at number 2, they, of course, travel to Ann Arbor to take on the Michigan Wolverines without Jim Harbaugh this Saturday in a 3rd straight year of a critical game between the Buckeyes and Wolverines. 2nd straight year where both are unbeaten. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, 2nd time ever. Michigan slides in at number 3.
Top 3 is the same, so is number 6.
So
No
that'll
change.
set up a 2-3 matchup this weekend in the big game.
I think it's pretty obvious the way they're doing this. They're flipping 4 and 5. Who
I
should
think
be
so.
number 4? Let us know. Type Wash for Washington or type FSU for Florida State. Who should be number 4? Let us know. 1, 2, 3, and 6 are the same. Who should be number 4? I'm seeing Don says Washington, Deuce says Washington, so does Try, No for Life. Declan says Florida State, Chopper says Washington, RC says Washington, Tackle says Washington, Jeremy says Washington, Devin says Florida State, Kelvin says Bama should be 4. Well, they're number 8. So
69% of the votes in Washington. Nice.
yeah, I think it will be the Huskies. I do think it'll be the Huskies. Obviously, big discussion around Jordan Travis and his injury, but take that out of it. Washington beat a top 15 team, Oregon State, on the road, whereas Florida State played an FCS opponent. I will say this, though, Tyler. The committee kind of plummeted Oregon State, so maybe they don't value that win as much as you and I do. I don't know.
Yeah.
Still a ranked win, though.
There we go.
And
Washington
there it is. The Huskies leapfrog Florida State. They are number 4, which means the Florida State Seminoles are number 5. There you have it. Grade the committee's rankings, A, B, C, D, or F. Subscribe to the channel while you're at it, too. Let us know A, B, C, D, or F, and hit that sub button. I think that's proper. Washington deserves to be in there, Tyler.
It feels so odd that we're sitting here with just a couple of weeks left in this, and I don't have a gripe based on that top 6. The committee has the top 6 right now.
It's kind of been easy. 5 unbeatens. You just got to figure out who the top 5 are, whatever order. I mean, we'll see what happens these next couple weeks.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Washington at that number 4 spot, Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan at 3. Grade the committee's rankings, A, B, C, D, or F. What do you think about this matchup coming up this weekend between Ohio State and Michigan?
I think Michigan is the better team, but I think Jim Harbaugh not being on the sideline is worth at least something. Like, especially if the game's tight. You feel like in a tight game, Sharon Moore, a guy who's inexperienced as a head coach, versus Jim Harbaugh, who's been through these battles before.
I mean, who else is going to be able to go like this?
Yeah, well, Urban's not available. But I feel like if it's tight, it could play a big role. However, I also will add that since the cheating stuff has popped up, it feels like Michigan hasn't quite been as sharp. It feels like it's been a tick off. It feels like J.J. McCarthy's not playing as well. So if you asked me a month ago, I would have said Michigan by 10. Now, I think it's a tight game. I think it's a one-score game.
I think Ohio State's played better as of late, too.
They're playing a little better. They have the best player on the field than Marvin Harrison Jr. Emeka Egbuka's healthy finally. I think it's a tight game, and I'll give Michigan the edge because it's in Ann Arbor, but I don't see it being the way it's gone the last 2 years. I think it'll be close late.
A couple of weeks ago, when these two teams squared off, or when Ohio State and Notre Dame squared off, everybody was taking Notre Dame and said that Notre Dame was going to win that football game, and Ohio State went in there and it got the job done.
They're finding ways to win, man. Michigan's done that as well, obviously, but I do think the Buckeyes are more battle-tested. Chubb says F. Tim says C. Steven says A. Everett says A+. Cheaters should never be in the playoffs from Jamie. D-Nice says C. We got Joshua saying C. Camel says C. We got D-Nice saying C. What if number 1, number 2, and number 4 lose their conference championship games? Yeah, I mean, that would be part of the chaos we're talking about. I mean,
for those of you giving C's, what did you want the committee to do?
Yeah, like, I mean, I feel like maybe they're Bama fans. They're pissed that Bama's all the way down at 8. Even the Florida State guy was like, yeah, Washington should be ranked higher. So
at the end of the day, it's only the top 4 that's really their job.
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. And shout out to all of you. We hit 345,000 subscribers. We appreciate it. We're here every single Tuesday night. We'll be here next week. The one after that will be the Sunday morning following Championship Saturday. It'll be Selection Sunday for the College Football Playoff, the final 4-team CFP, and it feels fitting that it feels like there could be some drama that day. So if you want more college football coverage, NFL, NBA, we're the channel for you. Hit that subscribe button. We'll take you through the top 25 one more time, and then we'll wrap up here. Liberty gets in there with their 11-0 record. Good for them. Their path to the New Year's Six is probably going to require a Tulane loss, so keep that in mind. Utah still in the top 25. NC State jumps in there at 23. Tennessee at 22. And then Oklahoma State up to number 21. Tulane, number 20. Kansas State at 19. They're still hoping to get to Arlington for the Big 12 championship game. They need some help to do so. Notre Dame at number 18. Arizona, an outside chance at a Pac-12 title berth. So we'll see what falls or doesn't fall in their favor over the next couple of weeks. Iowa, America's least favorite college football team, is number 16. Jokes, but they're not from me. They're not from me. LSU 15, Oregon State 14, Oklahoma 13, Ole Miss 12, Penn State 11. Before we get to the top 10, Tyler, what stands out 11 through 25?
Man, how about Oregon State? Just the way that they dropped after playing a close game.
Oh, by the way,
Washington.
these are mock, Sam. These are mock. We're going to rewind.
Reset.
Okay, here we go. Liberty, number
rankings.
25. Clemson, number 24. Tulane, 23. Producer Sam's had a couple of shots. It's all good. NC State, 22. Tennessee, 21. We'll kind of sprint through these. 20 through 16, we got Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Notre Dame, Iowa, and Oregon State. And then 15 through 11 is Arizona, LSU, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Penn State. I'll ask you again now before we get to the top 10. What stands out 11 through 25?
It's how Oregon State fell when they played a very close game against Washington.
Yeah, you shouldn't get punished for playing a game close.
And then
like
Washington still moved up to number 4, which they should have anyway. But just seems kind of odd.
A little wishy-washy.
The disrespect for Oregon State as far as that goes. Top 10, Louisville at 10, Mizzou at 9, Bama at 8, Texas at 7. Going to be a hard path for Louisville to get the postseason.
Yeah, I don't love having Mizzou ahead of Louisville now. It probably doesn't really matter because obviously if Louisville wins out, they're going to jump Mizzou if they win the ACC championship. But I think it does just kind of signify like their path to the top 4 feels, I don't want to say impossible, but very difficult. I mean, they need more than a couple dominoes to fall for that to be the case. And what hurts Louisville too is even if they beat Florida State, it's not going to be viewed as strong without Jordan Travis. You know what I mean? Like, that win's still going to be good for them if they get it, but it probably won't be as valuable as it would have been had he been healthy.
In their case, though, a lot more winnable, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the flip side. I mean, they have a chance to win a conference championship. So, either way, it's been a great year for Jeff Brom and the boys at Louisville. Top 6 here, no change at 6 through 10. But the big flip, Tyler, Washington at 4, Florida State at 5. I think that was overdue, not because Florida State's not a good team, not because Jordan Travis got hurt, but because Washington has played ranked team after ranked team after ranked team, and regardless of style points, etc., they just keep finding ways to win.
Yeah, it's been awesome what that Washington team has done, and you still finish up the Apple Cup this week. Not necessarily an easy matchup against Washington State, and then the Pac-12 championship game after that. Washington might not be done moving up potentially if they win out.
And Kalen DeBoer in his second year now is 21-2 as the Huskies head coach. I mean, that is very, very
second
impressive.
Longest win streak in the country.
Yeah, behind only Georgia, who's number 1. Ohio State, Michigan, they stay at 2 and 3, of course. That is the game this week, Tyler. An elimination game in most regards. Maybe the loser still has an outside chance of making the CFP, but it feels unlikely. All right, folks, appreciate you all for tuning in tonight. Feels like, well, there definitely will be some changes next week after Michigan and Ohio State, so be sure to join us for that. We'll be live around 6:30 Eastern next Tuesday as well, getting you ready for Conference Championship Week, and then it'll be the final shebang the following Sunday. He's Tyler Jones. I'm Harrison Graham. Appreciate producer Sam Brown for keeping us live, making us look good here. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. Enjoy some Thanksgiving food. Football. It's going to be great. We'll see you guys next week here at Chat Sports.